Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So today I want to talk about W-2 jobs, the pros and cons of a W-2 jobs, and why sometimes being a W-2 job can feel like you're being stuck in a cage, especially for those who are more growth oriented, for those who are more entrepreneurial, for those who kind of have a higher standard for themselves. So, for me, I own 52 units of real estate. I built up over $6 million net worth. I cash flow probably on average about maybe $8,000 a month. And despite that, I still work a full-time W-2 as a pharmacy manager at a large hospital. And, I've been working as a pharmacist since 2013. And, for me, all I knew back in 2013 was to climb up the corporate ladder. And that was probably instilled to me by my dad because, in that age, my dad's a boomer. He's like, almost 70 years old. And that was kind of the mindset of that generation back then is you get a stable W-2 job. And then slowly over time, you work your way up the corporate ladder. So you start off as, for me, a pharmacist, then you become a pharmacy manager, you become a pharmacy director. If it's a bigger organization, you can be a VP of pharmacy, you could be a chief pharmacy officer. So you just kind of climb up that corporate ladder. And that's what I set myself up to do. And as you can tell, I got a master's in public health degree from UC Berkeley in preparation to give me these opportunities down the road, right? And even to go outside of pharmacy, to become a chief operating officer of a hospital, to become a CEO of a hospital. So that was the path that I was kind of geared towards in my early 20s because that's all I really knew, right? I didn't really know much about entrepreneurship. I didn't really know much about real estate. I didn't know much about investing because my parents didn't do that and they didn't have the capacity to do that. My parents moved there from Vietnam at like 18 to go to college with no money. They gave up everything they had in Vietnam to come here and they started with zero. So, obviously they're more optimized towards stability. They're more optimized towards security. And, both my parents have done well for themselves, right? They kind of hit the quote unquote American dream where they came here with nothing. They got decent jobs. My dad was an aerospace engineer and he retired at 60 with a pension. And my mom retired from Santa Clara County at 50 and, was able to retire early for 10 years before unfortunately passing away earlier than expected. So for me, that's all I really knew was to work a stable job and climb up the corporate ladder if you want to make more money. So that's how I kind of geared myself, right? So, obviously my first 4 years from 2013 to 17, I was just focused on being a good pharmacist and do my master's degree. And then upon completion of my master's degree, I actually got my first pharmacy director job in 2017 at 27 years old. So, for me, I've always kind of been on the fast track in life. I finished pharmacy school at high school in 5 years, which is most people take 8 years. I became a pharmacy director at 27, which is when most people finish pharmacy school. So I've always kind of been on a interesting fast track in life, and I've always been that way. I like to learn fast. I like to educate myself. I'm always very curious. I like to push myself, push my limits, and I've always been that way. So at 27, I was a director of pharmacy at a smaller hospital. And then I moved up to a bigger hospital where I was a regional director of pharmacy of 2 hospitals. And then I relocated to Southern California to focus on, kind of more personal life and more, just chasing my now fiance, Christine. And, from there, I got humbled quite a bit. I got laid off twice since moving to Southern California and at jobs where there were lower positions than what I used to be. And I think at that point, that's when I kind of realized that, wow, it's really a cage. Like W-2 really feels like a cage, right? And that's because I felt like I did everything right. Obviously you work hard at your W-2, you get additional education, certification, all that stuff. So at least on paper, I was doing it right. What I was probably doing wrong, I would say, is I was bad at making connections and network. So, obviously now, fast forward looking back, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that applies heavily. And then take it to the next level, who knows you? So that's why I put myself out here on creating content, because it's the next higher form of leverage, right? Because it's not what I know, it's not who I know, it's who knows me now. So that's kind of the next level and next iteration of that. But W-2, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And a lot of it's right time, right place, right situation, right? So, for me, I kind of felt like I maxed out on my W-2, to be honest. Like I've been in pharmacy leadership since 2017. So what is that? Like that's like going on 8 years almost now. And like, to be honest, I feel like I've been doing the same thing since 2017 all the way till today. Like I deal with the same issues at every hospital I'm at. In healthcare, hospitals vary significantly. Like some hospitals are like 10 years behind other hospitals. Some hospitals are cutting edge, more advanced pharmacy operations. Some hospitals are more behind in terms of the operations, and it just really depends on who's running the show in that hospital, right? If you had someone who's been there for a long time, didn't want change, then typically those hospitals will be behind. But if you have kind of a newer pharmacy director, and they're more innovative and creative, and they want to implement more change, then you have a more progressive hospital. If you work for like a health system like Kaiser, Sharp, they kind of force you to be always kind of more modern. But if you're kind of like standalone hospitals where they're not a health system, then really the modernization of the pharmacy really depends on who the pharmacy leader is. If they're a progressive leader, then it's a progressive pharmacy. If it's a kind of like maintain a status quo leader, then it's kind of behind and backwards in terms of operations. So why I share that is because, like I said, I feel like I've been doing the same stuff, like the same regulatory compliance, the same issues in the pharmacy. Every hospital is just rinse and repeat. And for better or for worse, like it's kind of boring for me now, right? Like it's just like, I feel like I did this like 5 years ago. Why am I doing it again? Because I'm the type to like to learn new things, to constantly challenge myself. But if any W-2, 80-90% of it's on autopilot, and maybe there's like 10% that's brand new that you're kind of learning, right? So that's kind of how I kind of view it now. So it's quite interesting in terms of that aspect for me. And for me, I'm a fast learner. Like I thought like I wasn't very intelligent growing up, but I quickly come to realize that I'm a really fast learner, and my intelligence is a little bit higher than the average, I would say. And so for me, how do I define intelligence? Intelligence is how many times I need to tell you before you pick it up. So for me, for the most part, you tell me once or twice, and usually I'll just pick it up unless I just forgot, right, at that moment. But for most people, you have to tell them like 10 times, like to do something before they even do it, or they just refuse to do it unless they're trained properly. And even once you train them properly, they're gonna say they need more training, right? So people are using incompetence as an excuse to not do something new and challenge themselves. So, but for me, I always like to challenge myself. I always like to do something new. And it's really, like for me, I'm just a fast learner, right? So like, for me, I kind of felt like I kind of tapped out in pharmacy. Like, I'm not on the clinical side of pharmacy. Obviously clinical, there's a lot you can learn, and there's always progression. But in terms of operations, like it's the same thing every hospital. Like for the most part, like if I walk into any hospital pharmacy, like I know how to operate like 70% of it already. The 30% is just like the minor differences in like what computer system are you using, what's the pharmacy model, what automation does the pharmacy have. So that's really it, right? But other than that, it's like 70% cookie cutter. So to me, it's always very surprising when like, every job has this, but someone's been there for like 20 years and they do like 1 or 2 shifts. Like they're stressed out by that 1 or 2 shifts. And I'm like, dude, if I was doing 1 or 2 shifts for like maybe 6 months, or not even 6 months, like maybe 2 weeks, I already be bored of that shift. And I felt like I mastered that shift already, right? So like for me, I have a hard time understanding like, wait, you've been here for like 10 years, you only do 2 shifts and you're always stressed out. Like I always have the staff saying, oh, I'm having a mental breakdown on this shift. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, you only do this shift. Like if you only do 1 shift every day for 10 years, how can you not be good at it, right? So I have a hard time understanding that. And, I just come to the realization that not everyone has high intelligence, right? And not everyone has good stress tolerance. So, to me, I don't know, like after being W-2 for so long, I just see how mediocre most people are, to be honest. Like they're just like kind of your C students, right? And it's just amazing to me how like, people like when a C student gives an opinion, like I kind of take it with a grain of salt, right? But if an A student or B student gives me like suggestions for improvement, then, I might listen a little bit deeper. But when I hear C students giving suggestions, a lot of times it's just like kind of complaints with that, right? So this is just kind of W2, right? This is what you have to deal with, the cons of if you're in a W2. There's like work politics. There's a lot of incompetent people who don't want to improve. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of inefficiency. A lot of people don't want to learn. They just want to like do what they do and then just complain about it. So for me, like that type of mindset and environment, it's like obviously not the greatest for people who are like growth oriented, who are like entrepreneur mindset, who want to learn and want to do better and want things to be more efficient, right? So, obviously, I kind of showed my growth mindset, my entrepreneur mindset more so when I was younger, but as I've aged and, obviously gotten burned by it, I kind of just hide behind the scenes and then, just don't really show my entrepreneur spirit. But the downside of that is like, you're just like insanely bored, right? Like you're just kind of like, for me, for my W2, and I'm sure a lot can relate, but like, if you ask me what I did 2 weeks ago in my W2, I really don't know, right? Like, I just know that it was either boring, it was stressful, or like, there's some like annoying people, right? And then like, I don't remember what it is, but just a blur. And then like, you just kind of go through the week. So like for me, I look forward to like my 5 to 9 more than my 9 to 5, right? But obviously there's perks of the 9 to 5, like you get your stable income. You get your paycheck every 2 weeks. You get sick leave. You get PTO. You get health insurance. You, I guess, get some sort of consistent schedule. You see people, right? You get to interact with people. Maybe you can learn something new. Maybe like 20% of the time. And you just kind of go through your day. You have to like pack your lunch, get ready. Do a long commute in traffic. Kind of deal with like a lot of annoying people who are incompetent. Right. So like I said, like when you're in the workforce, W2, like I would say like 70% of the workers are like C students. And this is just the normal distribution, right? And then you have some that are like B students, and then you have your outliers, your top 10% who are like the A students, and the A students are the ones, carrying the team, right? Metaphorically. So just take it like a worker, right? And we all know who they are, right? Like you go to any hospital, any organization, you know who the A players are because they carry the weight of the team. They do the work of like 5 B players and 10 C players. And it's really that mindset. So for me, it's like just very unmotivating being at like a W2 job. Like if your frame of reference is like a C worker, then that's concerning to me, right? Like you should have a higher standard than that, right? Like it's just a race to see who can do the least, right? Like who can do the least and get away with doing the least. That's how like it is in W2 versus if you're 1099, you own your business. It's like, well, you have to, if you do the least, then maybe your results won't be that great unless you have like insane leverage. So, for me, it's just kind of like, like I said, obviously there's pros and cons of W2. Pros being all the stability, get income, live out the income, but you don't learn as much. There's office politics. You're only as strong as the boss above you. You don't get promoted based on merit. It's a lot about right time, right place, connections, personality. Are you willing to kiss up to people? Are you willing to like take a beating from like higher ups? It's just all this politics, right? But you do that in exchange for like a nice W2 paycheck every like 2 weeks, right? So, it's kind of like pick your poison, right? Versus if you're 1099, you're not guaranteed income. You have to pay for your own health insurance. You have to, hunt what you get. You can't really slack off. You don't have sick days, but the income upside is greater, right? So just summarizing all that, like for me, I probably know that my time at W2 is coming to an end, like within maybe 4 to 5 years. So, at that point, I'm probably going to like have kids, 2 kids, a family. And then at that point, I probably would have sold, one of my single family homes to pay off my current house, not have a mortgage anymore. I'm hoping by then, like my side businesses start to pick up. So like, YouTube, coaching, all this good stuff picks up over time and, starts to not replace my W2 because that's going to be hard, but like at least like maybe a pharmacist salary. So I have some money to live off of. Like we're not super extravagant, not super humble. But yeah, it just kind of feels like, like everyone can relate to this. Like, and I don't know how people do this for like 30, 40 years. Like when I hear people say, oh, I've been here for 40 years, the thought of that is like so depressing to me. Like it's so depressing because I'm just like, wow, like one job, 40 years, And then when you leave, they give you a nice retirement party. After that, the day after that party, people forget about you, right? And at most, you might have had like maybe like a handful of friends in a department of 200 that know who you are, right? So it's just kind of like, you know, W2, like no one's really friends there. Like it's rare. Like you might have a couple, but like, have you ever really made friends from a W2 that you actually talk to today outside of work? You know? And then I'm just like, no, people are just there to like have fun because you're kind of forced to be there for 40 hours a week minimum. But like, do you actually be friends there? So like, I think once I kind of realized that, my ambition to climb the W2 ladder has diminished significantly. Like I know I'm capable of doing it if I really put my mind to it, but is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the stress worth it for me? And I think the answer is no. Like, yes, I could strive to be like a CEO of a hospital one day, but do I want to do that? Do I make that much more money? I don't think so, right? I'd rather just continue doing what I'm doing right now. I'm basically on autopilot on the job, right? And me on autopilot is still better than like most people on W2 job, believe it or not, right? Like me, autopilot is like a B level worker when the majority of people are C level, right? So, and when I need to, I can step up to the A level work. But for me, I'm trying to like just do as much as I can on autopilot. I go home and I focus on my side hustles. That's why Christine always wonders like, why am I so dedicated to creating content? Why am I so dedicated to my side hustles? Because to me, I'm like, I want to let this build. I want to let this compound, and this is what I truly want to do. End game, right? When I'm no longer in my W2, so I want to give this time to compound right now, where I still work W2, and then I'm building up my social media presence. I'm building up my coaching, my mentorship, building up my boot camp now. Just trying to build up other streams of income, and I know building nice businesses take time, right? It's not easy, and I acknowledge that. That's why I still work at W2, right? And it gives me time to let my real estate portfolio appreciate over time, my rents to go up over time, my principal pay down, my loans to go down over time. Maybe I will sell some assets and then pay off some debt, so take out some debt off the table. I still have some index universal life insurance that I need to pay off, over time. So, for me, it's just like a lot of moves I need to make over the next 4 to 5 years. And then obviously I want to get like paternity leave, maternity leave, before stepping away from the W2 completely. But yeah, it's just very, ebbs and flows for me. Like this week, I'm a little bit more negative towards my W2, as you can tell, but there's some weeks where I'm more positive, right? So it's just, and that's just the same thing on my business. Like some weeks in my business, I have highs about it, and some weeks I have lows about it. So, it just really depends, and it comes both ways. So for me, I think working at W2 is stressful, and then having your business is stressful, but choose the stress that caters to your lifestyle and yourself. So for me, I think I chose W2 as stress, but I know in the next 4 to 5 years, I'm gonna choose my stress to be just my business, right? And kind of step away from that W2, because I've kind of felt like I maxed out for my W2. Like honestly, I could be at my current job for another 4 to 5 years, and I don't think I'm gonna learn that much, to be honest. Like every year I'm gonna get a 3% raise, which is nice, but like I just know that like, okay, next year I'll be making like $6,000 to $7,000 more. The year after that, $6,000 to $7,000 more, and like but for me, I know that that's the max I can make. But with like coaching and YouTube, like there's no ceiling. But like, yeah, right now YouTube, I make like $100 a month, which is nothing, which is what I make in an hour, or less than I make in an hour. But the upside is there, and it compounds over time, right? Like it took me 13 years to get where I'm at in pharmacy. So I'm only in year like 2 of creating content and coaching. So I know it takes time, right? And I'm fortunate to live in a day and age where I could do both. I'm allowed to do my W2, go home, create content at night, on the weekends, after hours, and then post that to create like a side business. So I feel fortunate to have both options, right? So once I do that, my ambition towards climbing W2 just died completely. The juice is not worth the squeeze for me. And I've done well in real estate, fortunately, in 2017 till now, to the point where I built up a larger net worth, so that it gives me options, right? Like and for me, I'm not super extravagant. Like I don't care for like nice cars. I do have a Tesla Model Y, which it's nice enough. I have a nice enough house, but I don't need to be in a mansion that you see like behind me. I don't need to like have super extravagant vacations. Like I have just as much fun like staying in a economical, good location hotel, Because for me right now, I don't really stay in the hotel much when I travel. I'm usually out and about. But if I'm staying in a nice resort where I'm staying inside all day, yeah, of course I'll splurge on the hotel. So for me, I know what gives me value, the most joy and value. And for me, it's experiences. So, me and Christine are very wise in how we spend. So because of all this, because we have assets, because we are very value-based spending, and we think about how we spend money, we're not as materialistic. We don't care for the nicer luxuries. Like, whatever, I could buy a lot of Rolexes, Omega bags, nice purses, all that crap, but it doesn't make me happier. I bought it once, I experienced it once, and after that, I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to do it again, right? So that's kind of my mindset now. But because of this, it gives me the option to be like, hey, I just don't want to work anymore. I want to spend time with my kids. I want to take my kids to school. I want to go to their soccer practice or baseball practice or whatever activity they're doing, right? And then if they're at school, then I'll be creating content and doing coaching and doing my side business. And like I said, I talked to Christine about it. I'm like, dude, between my coaching and mentorship, YouTube, and then Christine becoming a real estate broker, if we can just take home, or not, if we can gross 150K between those, which I think is totally attainable over time, that's enough, right? We have a paid off house. We have a bunch of assets that compound, and we'd make 150K gross. And then, since we own businesses, you get a little bit more tax write-offs compared to a W-2. And then from there, we just would spend all that money and then just not touch our assets, not touch our nest egg, and let that $7 million nest egg just compound over time, right? So whatever 150 we make, we'll just spend it all, right? Literally, I'll just spend it all. Unless I want to save for a real estate deal, but we'll just spend it all to live life, enjoy life on our terms. And then that's really it, right? So that's really the format to success, right? It's not chasing a unit count, not chasing a net worth amount. It's really just getting to the point where you could do what you want. For me, I just know I tapped out in my W-2. There's nothing around it. Literally, I feel like I could not work in pharmacy for 10 years and then step back into pharmacy and honestly, 60% of it will still be the same. Right? That's how crazy it is. 60% change. Maybe some regulations change, maybe some modernization changed, but for the most part, things haven't changed. My first director job at Kindred, I literally can go work back at Kindred and nothing has changed in 7 years since then. Right? So to me, just not learning something new, it's very mind numbing to me. Because I like to learn. I'm a very curious person, and then I learn fast, which is a blessing and a curse. Right? So they say people who learn fast and have higher intelligence, that's why they're more depressed, because we always are in the pursuit of more, which is there's a downside, right? But the positive side is that you can't push yourself. But there's people who are just happy doing the same shit every single day for 30 years and be stressed about it every day for 30 years, and then that's it. But that's not the type of life I want, right? So that's why I said W-2 jobs, they feel like a cage. And for better or for worse, some people like being in the cage, right? There's some people that love their W-2 job and don't mind being in the cage. But for me, I'm not the type to like freedom, and I don't like to be caged. So, but obviously I'm not going to be sporadic and just boom, I leave my job and, retire today. No, I want to create a 4 to 5 year plan that helps strive me in that right direction, right? Of basically being able to retire. And step away from my W-2 or just not be full-time, right? I could be part-time. I could work maybe 1 to 2 days a week, 10-hour shifts. So really that's all it is for me. So anyways, sorry, I went this huge rant about W-2 jobs, the pros and cons, why it feels like a cage, and kind of my mindset about it, and why I stopped climbing the W-2 corporate ladder, and putting more of my time and energy towards my side hustle, which I know it's going to be longer term for me, right? And maybe I'll do my side hustle for 10 years, 15 years and not want to do it anymore either. But at that point, I assume my wealth will compound, and then I don't even have to do that at that point, right? So anyways, let me know what questions you have. If you want to join my mentorship program and get one-on-one coaching, check the link down below. Otherwise, please comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.